First off, I just want to thank someone else was scheduled to do the sermon today because there's a little bit of a mix-up, and I was really apparently supposed to preach last week, so my thanks to the person concerned. Yeah. Her name was Melody, and she grew up in the sun, she grew up in comfort, she grew up never being in want. Well, when I say her name was Melody, I'm making up a name. Melody, she was pretty enough to wear that name, so hey, we're going to name her Melody for the purposes of this story. I'm up here, I can do that. So Melody had everything she wanted. It was a childhood so sweet that you'd dream of it. And after a while, she had her first boyfriend, and that went really well. She married her first love. And again, they had it all. Until one day, Melody did something wrong, and her husband was as guilty as her. But he betrayed her to the authorities by something he said. And they both got into big trouble. The authorities were merciful, but they were driven out of the country, they were banished from the country, and they ended up around a campfire in just a couple of days' time, from having everything to around a campfire just like that. The government was merciful. They were merciful. They said, look, we'll send someone. We'll get it all fixed up. You'll get back home. And they were chuffed about that. That was good. But she had a problem. I mean, how do you forgive your man when he sold you out? I mean, the man in your bed, the man that wants to go to sleep at night, his limbs all entangled in yours, he sold you out. I mean, how would you cope? Well, I'd like to say I'm sorry to say she didn't cope. Go to sleep at night, back turned to him, up in the morning, together but not together, midday meal, eating with the betrayer, long nights around the campfire in silence. Well, they still did want kids, so they tried, and the record's a bit patchy. They might have had a few girls first, but a male heir. We're not really sure how long that was, but it happened, and she was overjoyed, and it was her and the newborn. It was her and the naming of the newborn. It was her and the pride of the newborn. It wasn't her and her husband and the newborn. The husband was sidelined. Still, one boy isn't enough. I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to walk up to his sister and say, let's collect lizard tails today? I mean, like that would have worked. So he needs a brother. So totally alienated, the two of them tried, and success. And it was her and the second newborn, it was her and the naming of the second newborn, it was her and the pride of the second newborn. It wasn't her and her husband and the second newborn. You see, because all the documents talk about at that point is there was a brother for the firstborn. This was the son for the father. And that was significant because they'd been brought up, rightly or wrongly, in that culture to believe that everything about the father or everything about the male was respected and noted, and that was significant. I'm not saying it was right, but that was the way it was. And at the naming of both kids, she ignored the father and just doted on the kids. She still had a real sense of doing what was right, being all that she should be. So I wonder if maybe at the start, or maybe as things went along, maybe she lay awake on those long nights when she couldn't sleep. I wondered, did she think, would it be good to reconcile? Or whether it was okay to do that once the government guy came along and everything was right again. Because, yeah, it's easy to forgive when everything is finally right again. but it didn't happen. They didn't know something. The two male kids weren't getting along. They were her pride of joy, but they probably knew squat about reconciling. After all, the parents had not demonstrated that in any way, shape or form. So one day it went bad, it went really bad, and when the dust settled from that bad day, the two estranged, broken spouses went to bed shattered. They went to bed broken, they went to bed totally splintered, shattered, ground down family. Three of their kids were never coming home again. To lose three, so to lose three kids in one day of grief that rolled over her soul, that ripped apart her soul and had doted on the kids. I mean, the records are patchy, but it seems it was a long, long time before they had children again. You know, all the moments when she put off her reconciling until after the government had come, and that stressful, wrong day was so hard as impossible. And I know that they're incredibly old now. Well, they're dead, but I know them. And you know them too. You probably grew up knowing them. Let's have a look at this story. Let me tell you some more. For those of you who have a Bible, can you turn to Genesis chapter 3? That's right, it's a story of Adam and Eve. I've been telling you a little bit about Eve. You see, we know in the Hebrew culture of the Old Testament, the male is frequently focused on rather than the female, and I don't think that was right, but it's important to note that as we study this today. And just in case some of you don't know the story, a strange creature that talked when nothing had ever looked like it had ever talked, somehow persuaded Eve in the midst of plenty, in the midst of 1,000 million freebie presents given by an almighty, loving, gracious creator to the two of them in the midst of freedom, somehow persuaded her to go after and break the one tiny rule concerning one tiny tree in one tiny part of the garden, to break that command on the say-so of some creature she'd never ever seen before. She gave some to her husband, and he was with her, and he ate too. And then they heard God close to them in the garden. I don't know how they heard God, but they heard God, and they hid. If we look down at verse 9, Genesis 3 verse 9, it says, and God calls, where are you? And Adam answers, I heard you, and I was afraid, and I hid. So he was so focused on himself. And guilt does that. Fear does that. Sin does that. And God, in verse 11, God said to Adam, he said, okay, have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? The man said, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. Then the Lord God said to the woman, what is this that you have done? How would you feel? How would you feel as the woman? Your love, your first love, the only other person you've ever known has dogged you in. And it's not to your teacher. It's not to your mum, it's not to your dad, it's not to your ultra-cranky, ultra-sensitive grandmother, but it's to God. Think back to a time when someone dogged you in. I think we've all had that happen. The worst time. Think back to the worst time when someone dogged you in. Can you think of it? Okay, got it? Now, imagine they're standing right in front of you right now. They're right there. What would your emotions say to them? Forget about all the niceties that culture says that we have to observe that. Forget about for the moment about being a good Christian. What would your emotions say to them? Just imagine for a moment what you'd say. 30 years that marriage was in tatters. So how would Eve feel? Did anyone want to say how would Eve feel?
Betrayed.
Betrayed, yeah, absolutely. And you know, they lost Eden, they lost their birthright, they lost their wealth, they lost their possibility of living forever. They go into hard existence. The man slaving away producing food, Eve is under her own hard times. What would it have been like trying to forgive the betrayer? Up in the morning together but not together, midday meal, eating with the betrayer, long nights around the campfire, reduced to eating around a campfire in silence. They were functioning. Okay, they weren't struggling to be a functional couple again, even at the times when they should. Sorry, they weren't struggling to be a functional couple again, even at the times when they could celebrate together. Okay, why do I say that? Well, okay, if you have a look at chapter 4, verse 1. Chapter 4, verse 1 of Genesis. It says, Adam knew Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Do you notice it just says Adam at the start? After that, it's all about Eve and Eve's children. And this was in a male-dominated society where even the official genealogies don't give the mother's name usually. I mean, if you look at Genesis chapter 5, look at Genesis chapter 10, look at Genesis chapter 11, it's always about the father and the son. It's not, the father's name is always given. But here, Adam is not mentioned as the father, just at the start, and then sidelined. Now, notice he says, if you look at the Hebrew of it, verse 1, it says, it shows her joy and triumph at Cain's verse. That's really obvious when you look at the Hebrew. And it also shows that she strongly values her God, because it says, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. If you look again at the Hebrew, she had the major choice of the name in there. And there's a beautiful son. She has beautiful moments. But that relationship, Adam's just off to one side. So what? So she has a son, but she's got this marriage with major difficulties. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, are they always going to go to sleep? Their backs next to each other? Are they always going to eat their meals in silence? They're the first human family ever, for crying out loud. Surely it's going to get better. Well, Abel is born, and he's named without any reference in the text to Adam. You look at verse 2, chapter 4, verse 2, it says that Abel was, Cain's brother. It says he was the brother of the firstborn. Doesn't say the son of Adam. And so because Eve is so emphasised here, and in that culture, the way things were written there, it clearly indicates that Adam was sidelined at a time when it was natural. He should be included, and that says to me that the relationship is so strained that communication and sharing is non-functional. I mean, surely there must have been times when they must have wanted the damage done by Adam to be fixed. There must have been times when there was a look between them. There must have been times when they must have wanted to hold the other's hand, but certainly Adam is sidelined at this point. It's all about her and the kids and their brother to the brother. And you know what happens next. Cain is furious at an indication that Abel's offering to God is regarded better than Cain's offering, and Cain kills him, and Cain flees into another land and has a wife, so a family. Must have been one of his sisters, yeah? so at the end of that murder and at the end of the results of that murder, Adam and Eve have lost 3 children. Perhaps more than that. We don't know how many of the sisters actually went with Cain. But as Adam and Eve go to bed that night, somehow to grab, how do you do it? How to grab a little sleep after a day like that? Eve is there grieving a murder, grieving the loss of 2 sons, grieving the loss of at least 1 daughter, grieving almost certainly the loss of this relationship that she could have had with her hubby that isn't there at all. And it was almost certainly, things can get better, because it was almost certainly a long time before they had their next son, who was Seth. Turn over to chapter 5, verse 3. Chapter 5, verse 3 says clearly that Seth was born 130 years after the creation of Adam and Eve. Okay, we don't know how many girls they had before they had Cain, because the scripture doesn't talk about that, which is wrong. But now we don't know how many girls they had before they had Abel. We don't know how many girls they had before they had Seth. But Seth being born 130 years after Adam and Eve's creation would suggest to me they weren't trying too often. Now, Eve does trust God, and she sees God as her helper. We know that because if you look at 4 verse 1, when she's rejoicing in Cain's birth, she says, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." And if you go across to 4:25, which is Seth's birth, for Seth's birth we see she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." God has granted me another child. Do you notice it's not God has granted us? It's not God has granted my man a male heir. God has granted me. So she trusted God. She trusted in God. She trusted that God would bring her through. She trusted that God would supply the Messiah, bring them back to an Eden-type state, but not enough to mend alienation between her and the young man she'd met 130 years ago. She didn't push through. Adam was at fault too. Why do I say that? Okay, if you look at chapter 4, verse 25 again. Verse 25, Adam knew his wife again, and she gave birth to a son, named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. And at that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. So they weren't calling on God's name until Seth's son's time. That was 130 years. I mean, that would tend to indicate that Adam wasn't as close to God as he might have been. So, weighing it up, Adam and Eve, neither were as close to God as they might have been. If they had been, from what we know today of God. I know he would have been gently wooing the two of them, Adam and Eve, each of them, to a point of reconciliation with each other. And, well, we don't know, but maybe Cain and Abel might have had a model of how to reconcile. And when Cain's offering wasn't the favoured one, and God came to advise him about the right course of action out of his anger in chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, maybe he might have found what God advised him about to be workable, to be understandable, to see reconciliation as something he'd seen in his parents' lives and his relationship with his brother. But because Eve wasn't fully into God's will, because Adam wasn't fully into God, they missed out on their interpersonal relationships. And you know, and I know, God wants the best for your relationships. God will always help you. God will always teach you. God will always guide you. God will woo you into the best for your relationships. And that's within your family, it's within the church, and it's outside the church, and your workplace, and your school, and your university. So, in your relationships within the church, will you be like Eve? She didn't have to reconcile. She sidelined those that God would have to be important in her life. She dated on the wrong thing, the wrong people. And the effects rippled. They rippled. They rippled into the lives of those near her. Her children hadn't seen reconciliation. So how? How could they be reconciled to each other? Or will you be like Adam, who wasn't calling on God till Seth came along? He wasn't loving God as his primary love. Or maybe, will you be like Jesus, who loved his Father enough that when he humbled himself and came to earth, he became less than nothing. He said, one of the quoted verses is, Jesus saying to God, "Lo, I come to do your will, O God," and he did it. He obeyed, the law, love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. He obeyed it to the max. And he loved us. He loved us so much that he died. He took on your sin so totally that just trusting him that he's really done it is enough to restore you to God, who loves us without reservation. He loves us so much that he intercedes and prays constantly for us. He loves us so much that he has been preparing a place for us for 2,000 years. He loves us so much that he loves us now. He loves us so much that he will return and take us to himself. That was the love that God had for the Father and for us as well. And Jesus rippled that love, that life. He rippled it. 12 men. And those 12 men rippled it to 3,000 at the Pentecost. And those people at Pentecost, they set up beautiful communities. They were fallible, they were human communities, but they were beautiful communities of devoted praise to God, of selfless care for each other. So much the world needs. Will you ripple Eve or ripple Christ? Who will you ripple to those that you meet after church, those that have hurt you, those that have squabbled with you? Adam and Eve, they rippled estrangement, they rippled brokenness, they rippled coldness towards God, they rippled that outwards. And one of the children moved another. What will you ripple? And then there is Jesus' disciples. After he went back to heaven, they rippled a love that turned the world upside down. Why? Because they rippled